Knights Templar, the mystery that not even history could solve. When steel shone under the sun of faith and the blood of the righteous stained the sacred sand, a brotherhood was born that the world would never fully understand. Men in armor, but also on their knees before God. Warriors and monks, angels and shadows. They called themselves Knights Templar, and in their eyes there was something that not even time could erase. The reflection of a secret that had defied kings, popes, and entire empires. Every sword stroke was a prayer, every battle an offering. They fought not just for land or glory, but for something much deeper, the mystery of faith itself. They were few in number at first, just 9. They swore to protect the pilgrims crossing the desert toward Jerusalem. But over the years, what began as pure devotion transformed into a force unstoppable. Their red crosses became symbols of power and fear. Wherever they passed, silence fell, and even their enemies knew that to fight them was to defy their own destiny. Men who did not fear death, believing it was merely the gateway to eternity. But there was something else, something that was never told clearly. Beneath the ruins of the ancient Temple of Solomon, the Templars excavated in secret. They sought something not written in any holy book. And when they emerged from the shadows, they carried a new gaze as if they had seen something forbidden. From then on, their wealth grew, their power expanded, and their alliances transcended borders. The church called them holy brothers, the kings, dangerous allies, and the people, the chosen ones of the mystery. But the higher they climbed, the denser the fog surrounding their secrets became. Some claimed they had discovered the Holy Grail, others that they possessed the true name of God. What is certain is that something transformed them forever. The glow of the Red Cross began to carry not only faith, but also fear. Because the world already knew, the Templars were not simple knights, they were guardians of a code that history has never deciphered. And so, between the sacred and the profane, between light and shadow, they disappeared. But the echo of their footsteps still resounds in the ancient walls, in forgotten chants, and in symbols that time has not been able to erase. Order may have fallen, but the mystery of Knights Templar remains alive, waiting for someone to finally discover the truth that not even history itself could reveal. It all began in a time when faith and blood walked side by side, when God's name was shouted amid swords and dust, and Jerusalem was the heart of the world. In the year 1119, 9 knights decided to give up everything they had, their lands, their titles, their families, to live for a single purpose, to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. These men called themselves the Poor Knights of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, and swore absolute loyalty to the cross and silence. They lived without riches, slept on stones, and ate the bread of humility. However, what began as pure devotion soon became the most enigmatic force of the Middle Ages. The Templars' discipline was relentless. No knight could refuse an order, and obedience was the heart of the brotherhood. They trained to the limit of body and soul, molding warriors who fought as one, breathed as one, and died as one. In the field, they marched with the precision of a heavenly army, and when their red crosses appeared on the horizon, the enemy trembled, for they knew they were about to face men who fought not for gold, but for eternity. Their unity was so intense that chroniclers themselves said, "The Templars are the wall between heaven and hell." But what few knew was that behind their faith lay mystery. Beneath Solomon's temple, where tradition says God himself once dwelt, the first 9 knights excavated for years. No one knew what they were looking for. When they returned to the light, their faces were different. They spoke little, but their gaze carried something no ordinary man possessed, a knowledge that seemed to transcend time. From then on, they began to grow in power and influence. Kings bowed before them. The Pope granted them privileges no other man possessed. The Templars answered to no king, only to God. And so from poor warriors, they became lords of fortresses, creators of the first banking system, and advisors to the thrones of Europe. But the more light they attracted, the more shadows formed around them. Something was being born behind their devotion, something that to this day echoes like a whisper among the ruins of Jerusalem, the secret that not even history has been able to decipher. You Knights Templar, they were not just soldiers, They were a living code of faith, obedience, and sacrifice. Each man who donned the white cloak with the red cross left behind his name, his fortune, and his very identity. He became part of something greater, a brotherhood that believed it fought not for the glory of men but for the will of God. Silence was their language, discipline their soul, and the sword their prayer. They slept ready for war, their helmets at their sides and their souls in constant vigil. With each dawn, they swore the same oath: to protect the sacred, to serve without hesitation, and to die without fear. A fall of the Knights Templar was as brutal as the silence that came after. Their motto echoed from the castle walls: "Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name give glory. Not to us, Lord, but to your name be the glory." The Templar order was a perfect combination of devotion and strategy. While the monks prayed in the abbeys, they prayed wielding their swords. Their bodies were temples of resistance, and their minds fortresses of faith. They did not drink wine excessively, did not attend parties, and never looked at a woman with desire. They lived by strict rules, recorded in the so-called Rule of Hugues de Payens, their first master. And within this rule was something that defined their spirit: purity of purpose. The Templar fought not for gold but for redemption. He marched not for glory but for conviction. Their battle was both physical and spiritual, a war against the enemy both visible and invisible. But behind such devotion lay a mysterious fire. Some said the Templars possessed a kind of faith that transcended the confines of the church, as if they had seen something no other man had witnessed. There was light in their eyes, but also a secret hidden between the lines of their prayers. Within each knight seemed to dwell an enigma, the certainty that their mission was not limited to the Holy Land, but to something much greater, to protect ancient, perhaps divine, knowledge. Because the Templars were not just warriors, they were seekers of truth, travelers between the visible and the hidden. Their swords defended the body, but their souls sought the invisible. So centuries later, we still wonder, what did these men truly find in their faith? And what made them believe they were fighting for something the whole world still struggles to understand? Under the ruins of the ancient Temple of Solomon, where legend said the presence of God had rested, the first Templars dug in silence for nearly a decade. People saw those men kneeling on the sacred stone and believed they were seeking only relics of the faith. But the truth, or what is told in the whispers of history, is much deeper. Chroniclers and scholars claim that the 9 founders of the order found something there, something that completely changed the destiny of humanity. Some said they had discovered the Holy Grail, others who found ancient manuscripts with the true name of God or secrets about the fallen angels. The truth is that after that excavation they were never the same again. They emerged from the shadows of Jerusalem with a gaze no ordinary man possessed, the gaze of someone who had touched the forbidden. Shortly thereafter, the Templars began an inexplicable rise. From poor knights, they became a political and spiritual force that no one dared challenge. The church blessed them, the Pope protected them, and even kings sought their help. It's as if that excavation had awakened something, not just power but hidden knowledge. Documents from the time speak of a secret teaching passed down only among the order's elders, a code transmitted in nocturnal rituals within their fortresses. Some believe these secrets were written in geometric symbols, disguised on the walls of the Gothic cathedrals they themselves helped build. From there, the Temple of Solomon, it ceased to be merely a historical site and became the center of the Templar enigma. Everything related to the name of the order was connected to that excavation. Their riches multiplied mysteriously, and the knowledge they seemed to possess surpassed the comprehension of their time. They knew secret trade routes, advanced construction techniques, and even mathematical principles that medieval Europe had not yet mastered. It was as if they had accessed something the world had forgotten. But the biggest mystery was never what they found, but rather what kept. The Templars swore absolute silence about everything they saw beneath the temple. And to this day, no document, no will, and no confession has revealed what was truly discovered. Perhaps because the secret was too great to reveal, or too dangerous to understand. A red cross of the Knights Templar, it was more than a simple emblem. It was a sacred code, a seal of power and sacrifice. Each stroke, each red line embroidered on the white cloak represented a silent pact between heaven and earth. The color white symbolized purity of body and soul. The red, the blood shed for faith. But according to ancient records and enigmatic manuscripts, the symbol concealed meanings far deeper than the world ever imagined. For the common people, the cross was a sign of courage. For the initiated, it was a spiritual key, a divine geometry capable of unlocking the invisible. Some modern scholars believe that the design of the Templar cross contains secret proportions, similar to those found in ancient pyramids and temples, as if the order had inherited knowledge that surpassed centuries of human history. As the Templars advanced into battle, the cross blazed in the sun, reflecting on their blades and shields. It was the symbol of immortality, of the certainty that dying for Christ was merely a passage through the veil of life. And the enemy knew. When they saw the red cross, they were about to face men who fought not for earthly victory, but for eternal redemption. The psychological power of this symbol was so great that many enemy armies surrendered at the mere sight of it in the distance. There was something supernatural about the way the Templars carried this emblem, as if the power emanating from it was more spiritual than human. However, some say the cross was also a secret of alchemy. Red, the color of blood and fire, represented the transformation of the spirit, the passage from common man to divine warrior. White, the final purification, the fusion of flesh with light. Together, the two colors formed the perfect balance between the visible and the hidden. Many Templars believed that, upon dying in combat, their soul passed through this cross, like a portal to the divine presence. And even centuries after their fall, this symbol continues to resonate. It is engraved on cathedrals, coats of arms, coins, and stone monuments. It is a silent call, a reminder that there are secrets in faith that cannot be explained with words. The red cross of the Templars was not just sewn onto their cloaks, it was engraved into the very soul of history. The treasure of the Knights Templar, it remains to this day one of humanity's greatest enigmas. It is said that it was made not only of gold, silver, and precious stones, but of something far more valuable: knowledge. Over centuries of crusades, the Templars collected riches from distant lands, secret maps, sacred manuscripts, and relics that not even kings dared touch. They built fortresses at strategic points in Europe and the East, and in each of them were underground chambers, guarded by indecipherable symbols. Ancient accounts tell of mysterious caravans departing at night, carrying chests sealed with the Red Cross emblem. No one knew the final destination of these treasures. Some said they were bound for the Vatican. Others said they were taken to secret ports, from where they embarked on a journey into the unknown. But the true value of Templar treasure, perhaps it wasn't what the eyes could see, but what the mind could comprehend. Many believe the Templars discovered ancient manuscripts containing secrets of lost civilizations, texts on astronomy, alchemy, medicine, and even spiritual portals. This would explain why they were so respected and feared. They seemed to know things the rest of the world wasn't yet ready to discover. The Order's growth was so rapid and inexplicable that many suspected divine intervention, or something beyond that. Over time, the treasure became more than wealth. It became a curse. The Church grew wary of so much power. The Templars gold-financed crusades, built cathedrals, and bought silence. Indebted kings saw them not only as allies, but as rivals. And so, the treasure's splendor began to overshadow the altar of faith. What was once sacred now aroused envy. When the Order was destroyed, many Templars disappeared, taking their secrets with them. Ships are said to have left France in the early hours of the morning, carrying the last of their power. None of them have been found. Since then, the world has searched for the Templar treasure, in vaults, in ruins, in forgotten books. But perhaps the treasure isn't hidden anywhere. Perhaps it was never made of gold. Perhaps the Templars' true treasure is the very knowledge they protected, the missing link between faith, science, and the eternal mystery the world still tries to understand. The day was October 13, 1307, a Friday, a date the world has never forgotten. Under orders from the King of France, Philippe IV, the Templars were hunted down in a secret and relentless operation. Doors were broken down before sunrise, knights dragged from their beds, monks chained before the people. Accused of heresy, idolatry, and blasphemy, men who swore loyalty to God were tortured, until they confessed to crimes they never committed. The Pope, pressured and fearful, turned against them. The Church that had once blessed them now condemned them to the stake. The Order of the Temple, once a symbol of faith and power, was being wiped from the face of the earth. But the fire that burned their bodies was not enough to destroy what they represented. On the night the Grand Master Jacques de Molay he was led to execution, he raised his eyes to the heavens and uttered a curse that would echo down the centuries. Pope Clement, King Philip, within a year I summon you before the throne of God to give an account of your injustices. And so it was. Both died within the year, plunging France and the Church into silent fear. The people began to believe that the Templars had sealed a divine pact, or perhaps something even darker. While many were executed, others mysteriously disappeared. Templar ships are said to have left French ports in the middle of the night, carrying gold, relics, and sacred documents. Some accounts claim they fled to Portugal, where they became the Order of Christ, continuing their mission under another name. Others swear they escaped to Scotland, taking with them the true secret of the Temple. The fact is that, even after the official destruction of the Order, Templar symbols continued to appear in churches, coats of arms, and monuments, as if their flame had never been extinguished. History records the fall of the Templars as an end. But every charred stone, every missing manuscript, and every cross carved into medieval cathedrals screams otherwise. That was not the end. It was the beginning of a mystery that spanned centuries. The fire purified their bodies but freed their legacy. For as long as Jacques de Molay's name echoes, the Templars' curse will live on, whispering that the power of faith can never be burned. Even after centuries of silence, the legacy of the Knights Templar continues to pulsate in the shadows of history. They have officially disappeared, but their traces are everywhere. In cathedrals erected with impossible precision for the time, in symbols engraved in stone, in manuscripts that defy logic, and in secret societies that claim to be their heirs. The Red Cross, once a symbol of faith and sacrifice, has become an eternal emblem, present in military orders, European heraldry, and even modern medicine as the sign of protection and life. Templar influence shaped political, philosophical, and spiritual structures. Many believe that the very foundations of modern Freemasonry were born from the ashes of this extinct order, a continuity disguised as a fraternity where secrecy, faith, and knowledge continue to walk hand in hand. Some scholars argue that the Templars carried more than weapons. They carried ideas far ahead of their time. Their banking network was the embryo of the modern financial system. Their codes of conduct inspired armies, and their spiritual discipline mixed with hermetic symbols gave rise to centuries of mysticism. They say the wisdom they protected was never lost. It was merely divided, fragmented, and scattered among those worthy of guarding it. In some legends, the treasure is not gold but the very truth about humanity's divine origin. In others, it is the secret of spiritual immortality, the knowledge that by sacrificing oneself for an ideal, one touches eternity. And perhaps this is the true Templar secret, understanding that faith and reason are not enemies, but swords of the same warrior. That light and shadow walk together, and that man only finds God when he learns to fight within himself. The Templars understood this, and that is why their flame has never been extinguished. Today their name is spoken with reverence and mystery, like an echo of the past that insists on not dying. Centuries later, the world still tries to decipher who they truly were. Holy monks or secret conspirators, servants of Christ or guardians of a forbidden power. Because the true legacy of the Knights Templar lies not only in books, but in the souls of all those who, even amidst darkness, continue to seek the light that time has never been able to extinguish. Centuries passed, but the mystery of the Knights Templar never disappeared. With each new archaeological discovery, each document revealed, history seems to gain a new layer of enigma. Some say the order was never destroyed. It simply hid under different names, different flags, different oaths. From the heart of Europe to the colonies of the New World, Templar symbols have been found engraved on walls, coins, stained glass windows, and secret manuscripts. The Red Cross continues to emerge as a whisper of eternity, a reminder that there are secrets that not even time has dared reveal. Some claim that the Templars preserved sacred knowledge capable of uniting faith and science, body and spirit, a knowledge that could change humanity's very understanding of God and the universe. In many esoteric traditions, the Templars are believed to have achieved what the ancients called the light of divine understanding, a spiritual consciousness that transcends fear and matter. Therefore, they were seen not only as warriors but as initiated, men who had crossed the threshold between the human and the eternal. This idea survived in later orders, in Masonic rites, in the secret codes of alchemists, and in societies that still gather in silence by candlelight, repeating ancient words in forgotten languages. Each generation that delves deeper into this mystery finds only more questions, as if the Templar truth was meant to be sought, not revealed. But the true power of the Templars lies not in hidden relics or lost treasures. It lies in what they left engraved in the essence of humanity, the courage to believe. They proved that it is possible to unite sword and prayer, faith and reason, without one destroying the other. They showed that serving God can also mean fighting against human injustice. And above all, they taught that the greatest secret lies not beneath the soil of Jerusalem, but within the heart of those who seek the truth with purity and courage. Thus, the hidden legacy of the Knights Templar does not belong to the past. It lives on in every soul that refuses to conform to the ordinary, in every spirit that still feels the call of the Red Cross. Because perhaps in the end, the true temple was never made of stone. The bodies of the Templars have been lost in the dust of time, but their spirit remains indestructible. A mortal legacy that defies centuries and dominates the human imagination to this day. No bonfire could extinguish the symbol they bore on their chests, and no sentence could silence the echo of their voices. They were persecuted, betrayed, and forgotten by the powerful of their era, but the name of Knights Templar survived oblivion, resurfacing as a sacred flame in the hearts of those seeking truth. Their castles crumbled, but the ideas they defended, faith, discipline, and loyalty, became pillars of Western civilization. The modern world still carries fragments of their heritage, in laws, in institutions, in the ideals of fraternity and courage. What began as an order of warrior monks has become an eternal symbol of the human search for God and lost wisdom. Today, when we look at the ruins of the Templar fortresses, we sense something more than stone there. There is a silent energy, a calling. Every carved symbol, every cross engraved in the rock seems to remind us that the sacred still dwells among us, waiting to be rediscovered. Official history has tried to reduce the Templars to legend, but perhaps the opposite is true. The legend is what made them eternal. His death was just a metamorphosis, a passage from the physical to the spiritual, from the visible to the invisible. They say time erases everything, but there are names that time respects, and one of them is theirs. The Templars live on in the stories we tell, in films, in books, in the dreams of those who still believe in a greater purpose. Their code of honor resonates like a prayer lost in the wind, courage in the face of death, faith in the face of doubt, and loyalty in the face of silence. They taught us that the true knight is not the one who wins battles, but the one who resists darkness without losing the inner light. And so the circle closes. The mystery that not even history could decipher lives on, spanning eras and civilizations. Because the Templars were never just men, they were an eternal reminder that faith, when united with sacrifice, transforms into immortal power. And as long as there is a human heart seeking truth, the flame of the Knights Templar will never be extinguished. If this mystery has captivated you until the end, it is because the flame of Knights Templar still lives within you. They have disappeared from maps, but not from memories. What began with 9 men kneeling in Jerusalem continues to echo centuries later, in the stories we tell, in the questions that persist in having no answers, in the shadows of cathedrals, and in the silence of nights that hold ancient secrets. The legacy of the Templars is not just history. It is a mirror that reflects the eternal human search for truth and the divine. They proved that faith can be a sword and courage, a prayer. And even though the world has tried to erase their names, the echo of their voices lives on, whispering, "There is more light than meets the eye." With each new archaeological discovery, a new question arises. Were they saints or conspirators? Guardians of the Holy Grail or just disciplined warriors? We may never know. And perhaps that is the true charm of their story, the fact that Templar mystery, it doesn't exist to be unveiled, but to inspire. To inspire courage, faith, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle for a greater purpose. Because deep down, every human being carries within them a sleeping knight, waiting for the right moment to awaken and fight for something beyond life itself. And that's why, when we speak of the Templars, we're not just speaking of a distant past, we're speaking of ourselves, of what we believe, what we fear, what we seek. They remind us that the world may change, but the truth remains, hidden between the lines of faith. The Templars may be gone, but the fire that guided them still burns in every soul that refuses to give up the light. If this story touched you, become part of it. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so more people can awaken to the mysteries of the past. Comment below. The flame of the Templars lives in me, and join our fellowship of truth seekers. May their legacy continue to inspire hearts, and may each video be a new journey into the mystery that not even history itself could decipher.